welcome or welcome back to On God with me, Welheminah's mindful, heartful, and purposeful conversations. If it is your first time here, you just found yourself a community of believers who are doing life with Christ one stumble at a time. And if you've been with me since episode number uno, you know I super duper appreciate you. Thank you so much for holding space for the girl, as the girl has been holding space for you. Please do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, do what you need to do to make sure that the gospel reaches the people, because we are the church. And I think I've mentioned this in some of my episodes where I was like, guys, sometimes your story, this podcast, can be the only Bible that anyone ever reads. So please do make sure that we do go on to share. First of all, guys, how cute is this little hairdo? So I've had this hairstyle for like 2 weeks now, and I really thought I was just gonna have it for 1 week because I have quite a dope photo shoot coming up and I really wanted my hair to be curly by the time I undo it. So I was like, no, for 1 week I'm just gonna do the hairstyle and then whatever. But I'm about to go on week 2 with this bad boy because it looks so cute. It looks so adorable, you guys. Like, I just, and everyone at the office is just like, oh my gosh, you look like a little kid. And I'm like, I am a child of God. Thank you very much. I am really loving it. I know I've been receiving a lot of compliments with the cornrows, which is something that I experimented with sometime last year. And guys, I think that's my signature look going forward. Like, let me just say 3 months will not go by without me doing that hairdo, baby, because it is the bomb. But I think this is the second bomb. Like, I love the naughty, little bantu knots, and how from afar it just looks like an afro. Because yeah, before I actually twisted my locks like some donkey years ago, it was actually like a very cute little afro. Not even little, but I just had a hard time maintaining it. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving this. The God of every season. So obviously this episode is always inspired by something, baby. And right now it's inspired because I'm currently going through a waiting season, a wilderness season, where my heart is breaking, my emotions are flurrying, and I am praying to God about my healing. I'm praying to God about my bitterness. I'm praying to God about my unforgiveness. And I'm just like, man, this is my season. It's fine. And I'm going to go through it. And in the moment, I remember in one of the days where I was just like really shattered and on the floor, I just remember saying to God, I'm like, do we have an ETA on when shall this pass? You know what I mean? Because I've really been in this season for a minute, right? But at the same time, I just remember Holy Spirit just like nudging me and saying, don't rush this season, because there's so much that you are learning in this season, which is very true. I'm learning so much in this season. One about self-love, one about showing up for myself, one about, just really anchoring myself in the Lord in everything and anything that I do. So it's a very interesting season for me. And I just remember thinking that, there was a time last year where, everything was peak high, everything was hunkadory, everything was, stellar, right? And that was your season of harvest. That was your season of growth, and you enjoyed it, right? So you are now in this season, and I don't want you to pray it away. So I remember just thinking, you know what? Maybe let's talk about the different seasons that we go through as believers and what we need to do during those seasons, as opposed to just praying them away. Because the truth is, we always go through seasons, but we never name them properly. Sometimes we even accuse the seasons to be demonic attacks, spiritual warfare. Where else, baby, what you need to do is get down on your knees and get with the pray. Because the truth is, when you do life with God, it isn't like a constant breakthrough. It is not a linear line. It is not miracles on miracles. But it's the different seasons, the ups, the downs, that shape us, that humble us, that refine us, and most importantly, that grow us. And one of the hardest things to come in terms with, especially when you're in a very difficult season, is thinking the fact that you are in your valley seasons and thinking that God has abandoned you. No, we are told over and over again that our valley seasons, it's where God does most of the work. So let's talk about the different seasons that we go through. And I just want to talk about them in the order in which I think they normally happen, right? And not that they can They can happen differently, like whether you're praying for 1 minute, you're praying for a relationship, the next you're praying for a baby, the next you're praying for a job. You can find that through whatever you're praying for, you go through different seasons of that particular thing. You might be in your harvest season in your relationship, but you might be in your, wilderness season with your finances. Like, do you know what I mean? So they sometimes happen at the same time, and sometimes they don't happen at the same time, right? But let's start it from the beginning, right? Where you are in a planting season. A planting season is normally the quiet beginning. The quiet beginning. This is when God plants something in your heart, a dream, a vision, a prayer, a desire, a promise, right? Sometimes it looks like how your life is going to look like. Sometimes it's praying for healing during a grieving season. Sometimes it is literally just a desire for a breakthrough, a desire for marriage, a desire for a baby. But this is the season where God plants something in your heart. And what makes planting seasons very interesting is because it's all this excitement of this promise, all this excitement of all these things, but not quite seeing anything but the seed that you need to plant. You know what I mean? Knowing that you are heartbroken and you need to heal. So you start planting the healing seed. Knowing that you want to have a successful life and planting the success seed, right? It's very interesting because we are told in the Bible that there is a time for everything. There is time for everything, every activity under the heavens. A season for reaping, a season for sowing, a season for grieving, a season for dancing, a season for healing, a season for peace. There is a season for everything. And our planting seasons are normally the beginning of our faith journey. Following the planting season, we have the waiting season. And this waiting season can be a struggle for all of us. For example, God planted the seed of a podcast, right? Start the podcast. I started the podcast, and I've just been trying my level best to show up faithfully and consistently every chance I get. Right? So, with the waiting season, the prayer has been prayed, the promise has been spoken, but the answer has not shown up yet. While the planting season is the beginning of your faith, the waiting season is normally the test of your faith, of your trust in the person, in the Almighty who has given you the vision, who has shown you the promise, who has planted the desire in your heart. Isaiah tells us that those who wait on the Lord, he shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Waiting can feel like punishment, but it is not. It is the beginning of refining and working on your faith, on your trust. Because God normally does his best work during the delay, during the waiting, during the doubting, during the is it gonna happen? So you were in a season of planting where God planted this desire, this dream, this vision, and everything, and you start aligning everything in your life to do this. For someone, it could be a podcast. For someone, it could be ministry. For someone, it could be, your dream summer body. God planted the desire, and then we move on to your waiting season, where now the desire is there, and you felt like it was going to be answered tomorrow, but nope, you're just waiting. You're waiting on God. You're waiting on him. You're testing your patience. You're testing your faith. God, is this going to happen? God, did I even hear you right? Right? Because it gets to a point. God, did I even hear you right? There are times where I don't even know what to say on an episode, or I'm trying to come up with a script or a script for the show, and I'm just like, I don't even know if I heard you right. I don't even know if I heard you right. I'm about to hit a full year benchmark on with the podcast, and I can sit here and be like, man, under 200 subscribers in a year. God, did I even hear you right? Right? And during the waiting season, it's easy for us to get into the wilderness season now. Hello. Because we see it in the Israelites. The planting season was when Moses said, y'all gonna need to pack up your bags and go. Right? The waiting season was when finally Moses is there to rescue them, and the Red Sea's in front of us. Are you going to get us out of here? Where's the manna? Where's the food? Where's the water? Right? The wilderness season is a season where things start feeling very confusing. You love God, you're praying to God, you're going to church, you are trying to show the fruit of the spirits, generosity, kindness, patience, all of that. but it feels very dry and very uncertain. But this is not where God abandons you, it's where He refines you. We see it with the Israelites when they were in the wilderness for 40 years. They were moaning and groaning at the beginning. Moses, why did you take us out of Egypt? Moses, why did you why? There was a time where they even made their own gods, their own golden calf, saying, we're going to pray to this. But by the time they got to the promised land, even though it was a whole new different generation altogether, by the time they got to the promised land, they were refined. Their characters were refined. They knew not to serve no foreign god. They knew not to doubt that the Lord will not do what He said He will do. Hello. The wilderness is where you have to look at the promise, that the desire, the vision that He planted in your heart, and look at where you are. And you say, did I even hear you right? The wilderness is confusing. If it's marriage, all of a sudden, you're realizing, I'm being called to celibacy. Am I even going to get married in a generation that sexualizes everything? You're being called to sobriety. Every second event you go to, let's pop, I'm about to lash champagne. Man, can I even be sober? The wilderness is confusing. There's a friend of mine who met this guy, super amazing, checks all the boxes, but the guy just doesn't believe in God. And during your wilderness season, you can be like, I don't know. Do I? But we are reminded in the book of Deuteronomy, remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness this 40 years to humble and test you. The reason why I opened up the episode and said, I think I'm in a waiting and wilderness season is because I'm also at a point where God is saying to me, you are unable to heal because of your ego. You feel like your ego has been trashed. And if you have ego, it means you do not have humility. It means you're not humble. So I need you to humble yourself before me as you are breaking, as you are healing, so I can exalt you in front of the millions. And it's not easy to sit in front of God or be postured at His feet and say, yes, God, I actually think it's more than anything. It's not even my heart that's broken. It's my ego that's bruised. So I am here to say, God, humble me. Give me the humility during this wilderness to understand that everything that happened didn't happen for vibes. During wilderness season, you're going to be tempted to look at people doing things the worldly way and say, but God, why them and not me? God, why are they getting away with it? Why am I not getting away with it? Because some of us, God loves us to the point where the moment we walk in disobedience, He will snatch us out of it. Because He's like, you don't want to stay in the season for too long. Because sometimes we stay in seasons because we are not willing to look and understand what it is that God is trying to do within us. We don't understand that to be able to enter new seasons, it is determined by how we exit the previous seasons. If the Israelites were able to obey, walk in obedience in what God is calling them to do, I don't think they would have lasted 40 years in the wilderness. Be careful not to stay in your wilderness longer than you should because you're just unwilling to see what God is trying to do to you. I'm being taught humility. I'm being taught to not rely on my own understanding. I'm being taught that with or without the worldly things, I can be okay. Wilderness seasons are there to strip our pride away. They are there to remove the distractions. That job, that relationship, that friendship, the validation, the money, anything. Wilderness season is also there for us to learn to depend on one person only, to look at a situation and say, I don't know how I'm going to make it through, but I'm going to have to depend on God for this one. I've hit rock bottom. And all I could do was just be like, yep. Not even the 57 books on how to heal can help me with this one. Only God can. God will sometimes take you away from what you are leaning on so that you can learn to lean on Him. So you've gone through your planting season, you got into your waiting season, and golly, you survived your wilderness season. Now you get into your growing season. My favorite. I love growth. I love evolution. You know, when people are just like, oh, I'm scared of change. I'm just like, oh, you ain't never met me. I love change. I love growing. I love evolving. I hate being stuck. So growing seasons are my favorite because that's when everything shifts. Ah, what a lovely, I can almost taste it. It's when everything shifts. You start noticing the change in yourself. You respond differently, you pray differently, you think differently because of what your wilderness season taught you. And the growth, because of the wilderness season, is often very quiet. It doesn't have an audience, but it's so powerful because people will see it. Look, I'm 2 months into this thing, right? Into my season and everything. And there are certain things, I'm not even going to lie to you, 10 toes down, extremely, they have changed in my life. And I bump into people that are just like, girl, there's something about you. And I'll be like, there's something about me indeed. I don't know what it is. But when you see it, you tell me, right? So even as you're getting in your growing season and you're remembering all the things you learned in your wilderness season, do not get tired of humbling yourself before the Lord, because in due time you are going to reap your harvest. Right? That's what Galatians 6:9 tells us. Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Growth seasons remind you all the time that God has been working. There's a quote that I love that says, life is lived forward but understood backwards, where you're not going to understand why you had to leave your job. You're not going to understand, you're not. But when God does that thing that he does that we all love, you're going to be like, oh my word, yes, I see it now. And after you are done with your growth season, the favorite, harvest season. This is where everything is just clear for you to see. My gosh, it is so clear for you to see the prayer is answered. The breakthrough is happening. The opportunities are flooding in. And the healing is so tangible that you're not even triggered by anything or anyone. Harvest season, you can't reap what you didn't sow, right? Psalm 126 tells us those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy. Honey, I'm crying this season. Actually, let me be very real. The whole month of March, I didn't cry, not even a single tear. But January and Feb, honey, I was crying. I cried. And I'm like, I am reaping. I am sowing in tears right now, but I know I'm gonna reap joy, because as I pray for healing, as I pray for peace, as I pray for, forgiveness, it's also like God has already shown me what the other side of healing looks like. And I'm like, God, your word tells me that even as I sow these tears, I am going to reap joy. So even as you sow the hard work, as you sow the healing, as you sow the inner, as you sow, you're going to reap in joy. Be careful now. You can't reap healing, peace, and prosperity if you didn't do the work in the waiting and wilderness season. That's not how it works. But harvest season are just not about receiving, they are also about remembering, because guess what? You're going to have another wilderness season. And during that wilderness season, you need to remember that, but there was a time my God came through for me. You're going to remember, but there are so much more that I've gone through. This is nothing. My God will see me through. The Israelites had to remember that he parted the Red Sea. They had to remember that he gushed water out of a rock. He gave them manna from above. It's not just about receiving or having the prayers answered, but it's about making sure that you remember that, man, that was a time where I was down, bad, horrendous. But won't he do it? The tears were not wasted. The prayers were not ignored. And the waiting was not pointless. God was building something bigger than what you could see. So if you're planting the season, keep believing. If you are waiting in the season, keep trusting. If you're in a wilderness this season, keep walking. Because every single season has a purpose. And one of the most beautiful things about walking with God is realizing that he is with you in all those seasons, not just the harvest, but in the planting, in the waiting, in the wilderness, in the growing, in the becoming. And maybe, just maybe, that is the real miracle, to see how he refines you, how he does the work in you. And that's all I have for you this week, family. If this episode has blessed you in one way or another, please share it with a friend who's currently going through any of the seasons. But otherwise, stay mindful, stay heartful, stay purposeful. As for me, it's love and light.